Okay, guys, so we got a nice breakdown here. Again, exactly what we'd like to see. So at this point, I'm going to go to break even. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike from the James 16 group again with a trade that I just entered here on the Australian USD 15-minute chart here. So this just came across my web app here from Autochartist. It just popped up here, so I hopped over to my MetaTrader platform here to analyze and enter the trade here. And we have a really interesting situation. This is utilizing the M15 pattern here. There's a channel up pattern. There's also a rising wedge pattern. So I'm sort of using a combination of both. They're really very similar. They're overlapping, and they're giving us the same information here. And basically what we're looking at here is price funneling higher here. So again, here you can see price funneling higher. But the way it has done it and the way we're breaking out here is what's the most interesting for me. So again, remember, when you see me do these videos, when you're going through your charts, think about it in terms of confluence. Think about it in terms of what else can I break down that this pattern is showing that is giving a signal whether we should be buying or selling, right? So we just don't want to see a sell signal, which is what this pattern is indicating here, right? We can see from Autochartist a downward continuation. And again, the quality is all very high. The clarity is very high here. So, you know, in terms from Autochartist, it's a very strong signal, but what we want to do is take the price action and understand what's going on here. And what I see here is price boxing. So we've spoken about this concept here, but you're going to see it very clear here. So we have price in a box here, right? So price is moving along, we consolidate. Now, again, early on here, this is not important information in terms of, you know, we're going to understand that the rest of this is going to happen. But as we move along here, we're going to see the dynamics of what we want to see price doing in terms of respecting price. So if we look here, we have price boxing. And what price loves to do is loves to box on top of box. So, you know, we basically say things like, there's really only two things that the markets do. They box and they break out. They box and they break out. Everything's some version of that, right? Sometimes it's very clear. Sometimes it's not so clear. And when it's not so clear, you know, we want to avoid those situations. But here we can see price boxing. Then price breaks out here. Then price boxes again. And all the while these boxes are occurring, what we're basically doing is creating price pivot zones, right? So we have resistance, resistance. Price breaks out. What does it do? It turns into support over here, right? So we box again. We have resistance, resistance. What does price do? It breaks out. Then look what happens again. We box again, right? So we have boxes on top of boxes. So then we can see that resistance turn into all this support here. So this is where things really start to interest me here. Look at all these bar lows, right? Look at this clustering of support as we push into this rising trend line here. So this is where if price can give out here, this to me is a strong indication that price wants to move downward. Now, if we couple that with also we have divergence here. So divergence is simply the momentum loss of the market, which again, a lot of people like to measure using an oscillator like a MACD and RSI, which is fine, especially if you're new. I recommend, and I'll show you guys in a second. I personally prefer to just use it looking at price because any indicator you have is really just based off of price. So if you're able to see it visually, you're going to get the most out of it here. So let's go ahead and put up an oscillator here. Let's put up the MACD just so you can see that. Again, I'll just use the standard 12-26-9 settings here. And basically what you can see here is as price is rising, right? So price is increasing here. Our MACD is moving lower, right? So you can see the higher peaks moving into lower peaks as they move towards the zero line. That's divergence, right? So MACD is doing something that price is doing. It's doing the opposite. But again, I want to show you guys utilizing price because the more you can understand price in terms of whether it's a pattern or support and resistance area, the better you're going to do here. So the way I view it is start to understand the highs of the market. Start to understand what price does each time it makes a new high. So a lot of people think if price is making a new high in a market, that is a strong trending market. But that's not necessarily the case. It's how price is making new highs. So in this case here, we have established a high, right? Price breaks out. What does it do? It pushes lower, right? Price breaks out again here. What does it do? It pushes lower. Price moves higher again here, moves lower. Then we have this sort of last ditch effort here, right? And then we get this large bearish outside bar, or double high lower close as we call it. We have two matching highs that line up with the top of this box here. And what does price do? It closes underneath these lows, closes underneath our rising trend line from our Autochartist patterns of rising wedge, rising channel. So now we're underneath this box here. Where is price going to go? It's going to move towards this lower box here. Now, of course, as we know, price doesn't always do what we want. So the next part of trading is putting together a logical game plan that reduces your risk and allows your trade to work. So as I've been showing you guys, I like to start with my stop loss above the bar. That gives me an ability to understand, okay, here's my physical stop in the market. Let me calculate my position size, which is understanding how much to put on, how many lots to put on for my risk of the trade. And then I like to utilize that area between my stop loss and entry to start to reduce my risk. So for example here, by understanding that price is underneath this support and resistance level, right? It's underneath our breakout pattern. Do we want to see price come all the way up to our stop loss? Would that make logical sense? No. So instead what I like to do is say, okay, this is sort of the zone where price should not get past. So maybe price wants to sneak back up here, right? Retest these bar lows, then come down. So that's fine. So what I like to do is start to move my stop loss down. So although my risk looks like it's from here to here, it's really dynamic in that it's really around here. This is sort of a last-ditch effort. You know, let's say worst case scenario, this thing just spikes straight up right now. You know, you always want to have a stop loss in. There's really, in my opinion, no excuse to ever not have a stop loss in for the majority of people here. So again, I'm going to watch this area here, watch this breakout area, see if it holds, and then if we can start to turn down here, you know, if we can start to pull down here, look to pull my stop loss down. Again, price should start to move into this next box here. Right here's a strong support and resistance flip. Our first trouble area is sort of around this midpoint. As the midpoints of all boxes tend to be price pivot zones too. That's sort of the center line, the agreement line of price. So our first trouble area is really sort of right around here. That's when my stop loss would definitely be moved down above whatever highs get put in. But I want to see if we can push towards the target here, which again happens to line up with Autochartist target. So this gray box here is populated by Autochartist based on this pattern. This is where they see price going. This is sort of the minimal target. This would be sort of the maximum target, and I completely agree with that. This is the great first target, and if you want to see if this can push down to the lower portion of this box too, makes sense, again, if price can say get under this area and then push lower too. So again, let's watch here. Let's look to start to minimize our risk. It's always important, and we'll see if we can push forward. Okay, guys, so again, look at what happened here, right? So price pushed up a little bit, but we know where price should hold, right? Look at these bar lows, all these bar lows here. So now as we start to break down, now I can reduce my risk. So again, you know, you're going from what seems like a decent open risk, but you know where to cut out, right? You know where the market should hold. So now let's go ahead and reduce that risk. I'm going to go right above this bar high. Price should not have to come back there. Now let's just see. This is our sort of first trouble area, which, you know, we're getting close to. Again, I'm not going to cut out there. And then I want to see if we can just get a push into this area. It's the most logical place. It's the strongest support and resistance place. And then again, as we start to approach, you know, we start to move down into here, then we can look to get to break even. But again, right now, this is what is a great feeling, is when you can reduce a lot of your risk. The trade becomes much more comfortable. It's easier to hold on to. And again, you don't get all that psychological stress and pressure. Okay, guys, so we got a nice breakdown here. Again, exactly what we'd like to see. So at this point, I'm going to go to break even. Again, you know, we don't want it to pull back now and take you out here. So again, I'll get to break even here. I'm going to fix that. And then just see if we get a little final push here into this area, which, again, should, you know, probably give us a bounce here. Some of you might choose to hold it. Maybe look for that area to turn that back into resistance for a larger move. But again, these markets have been tough, and, you know, they've been sort of not as clean or flowing as we'd like to see them. So I'm going to be happy with this profit here and see if we can at least get there. All right, guys, so just a final update here. So take profit's been hit. I'm now out of this trade. Again, some of you may look to hold, as I said. And actually, you can see this little bounce here, which, believe it or not, was just missing me, my take profit here. But again, we have that resistance now, support. So this could be an area to hold as support. Or now that we're creeping under this last support area, that's actually a good sign for those you want to hold it and look for, say, a bigger move maybe into this area here. So again, love to hear your feedback. Please be sure to comment, like this video, and if there's anything specific you guys want to see, let us know.